Hey everybody, and welcome back to Sip and Talk. Today we're taking a look at something pretty mind-bending, the idea of human time expansion.
Yeah, we're basically asking, can we actually stretch out time? Like, can we make our lives feel longer, more packed with experiences, just by changing how we perceive time itself?
I love it. We've got a bunch of cool research here, some wild theories, and we're going to see if we can unpack it all.
Absolutely. We're going to dive deep into how our brains experience time and if we can actually trick them into making life feel longer.
Exactly. Like, you know that feeling when something crazy happens and it feels like everything slows down?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Like you're watching a car swerve to miss a squirrel, or, someone's about to spill their coffee all over their new laptop.
Oh, man. Yeah, those heart-stopping moments.
Yeah, those. It's like time goes into slow motion. We're going to explore whether that adrenaline rush actually changes how we perceive time.
Fascinating stuff. We've even got some info on experiments where people try to see super fast flashing numbers and how that relates to this whole time warp thing.
Right. Like, does a jolt of adrenaline actually make you superhuman? Can you suddenly process information faster than a speeding bullet?
Well, we'll see about that. But beyond those intense adrenaline moments, we'll also look at some practical, down-to-earth ways you can actually stretch out your own experience of time.
Yes. No crazy science experiments required. So no need to sign up for skydiving lessons just yet, folks.
Right.
But speaking of skydiving, that's actually a great place to start. So tell me, have you ever noticed this, like when you're watching a movie and there's a car chase scene or, someone's jumping out of a plane, everything seems to move in slow motion.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's a classic movie trope.
Totally. And it's not just a Hollywood trick. People who've been in actual accidents or, extreme situations often say that time seemed to slow down for them.
It's a really common thing people report, and there's actually some fascinating science behind it. It seems like adrenaline plays a big role.
Adrenaline, like the stuff that gets pumping when you're about to give a big presentation or ride a roller coaster?
Exactly. When we're in stressful or super exciting situations, our bodies release adrenaline, which triggers that fight or flight response.
Right. Makes sense. Our ancestors probably needed that adrenaline rush to escape a saber-toothed tiger or something.
Exactly. It's a primal instinct. And that adrenaline flood basically puts our brains into overdrive. We become super alert, our senses sharpen, and we start processing information much faster.
So our brains are like, whoa, hold on, got to process all this incoming data stat.
Yeah, pretty much. And because our brains are working overtime, taking in and processing information at a faster rate, it creates this feeling that time is actually slowing down.
Wow, so it's like our brain is hitting the record button and capturing everything in super high definition.
You got it. It's almost like your brain is recording more frames per second, so it feels like you have more time to react, to really see what's happening.
So it's not that time is actually moving slower, it's just that our perception of it changes.
Right. It's a trick of the mind, really. Physical time keeps ticking along at the same rate, but the way our brains encode those high adrenaline moments is different. We remember those events in much greater detail, which makes them feel longer in retrospect.
So it's like those memories have a higher resolution, so they take up more space in our mental photo album.
Exactly. It's all about how our brains process and store those experiences. And this leads to a really interesting question. If our brains are so good at capturing those intense adrenaline-fueled moments, can we actually use that to our advantage? Can we train our brains to be more present and aware in everyday life to savor those moments and make them feel longer?
Okay, that's getting into some pretty deep territory. But before we go there, I remember reading something about skydivers and numbers. What was that all about?
Yeah. There was this fascinating study where researchers had skydivers try to read numbers that were flashed really quickly on their wrists while they were free-falling.
While they were skydiving. Talk about pressure.
Right. But the crazy thing is they actually performed better at reading those numbers while they were plummeting through the air than they did in a calm, relaxed setting.
Whoa, really? So the adrenaline rush actually improved their perception?
It seems so. It suggests that this heightened state of awareness brought on by adrenaline can actually sharpen certain aspects of our cognitive processing.
So does that mean, like, if I chugged an energy drink before a test, I'd ace it?
Well, not quite. It's not that simple. While adrenaline can boost alertness and processing speed, it doesn't magically improve all our cognitive abilities.
Right. It's not a magic potion.
Exactly. And there are definitely downsides to being in a constant state of adrenaline overdrive. It can be super stressful on the body and mind.
Makes sense. We're not meant to be living in a perpetual action movie.
Exactly. So while those extreme adrenaline moments can create this fascinating time distortion effect, it's not something we want to be chasing all the time.
Okay, so for you folks at home, when you feel that time slow down in a crazy moment, just remember it's your brain doing its thing, processing information like a boss.
Right. It's giving you that super slow-mo replay.
But the clock is still ticking at its normal pace.
Exactly.
All right, so that's the adrenaline rush and how it warps our perception of time.
Pretty cool, huh?
Totally. But now let's shift gears a bit. We've talked about how adrenaline can make time feel slower in those extreme moments. But what about everyday life?
Right. Can we hack our perception of time even when we're not dangling from a plane or dodging a runaway shopping cart?
Precisely.
Well, it turns out we actually can. It's all about understanding how our brains create and store memories.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So, you know how when you go on vacation, even just for a few days, it can feel like you were gone for a week?
Oh, yeah, totally. Especially if it's somewhere new and exciting.
Exactly. And that's because your brain is busy soaking up all those new sights, sounds, smells, and experiences. It's forming all these new neural connections, creating rich, detailed memories.
So it's like our brain is taking tons of mental snapshots and creating a giant photo album of the trip.
Yeah, you could think of it that way. And because there are so many new memories packed into that short period of time, it feels much longer in retrospect.
That makes sense. So the more new information our brain processes, the longer that period of time feels.
Precisely. And on the flip side, when we're stuck in a routine doing the same things day after day, our brains kind of go into autopilot.
Oh, yeah, totally. Like when you're driving home from work and suddenly you're at your doorstep and you don't even remember the drive.
Exactly. That's because your brain wasn't really actively encoding new information. It was running on autopilot, so the memory of that time is kind of fuzzy and compressed.
So basically, if we want to stretch out our experience of time, we need to keep our brains engaged in learning new things.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be anything dramatic. It could be as simple as trying a new recipe, listening to a new genre of music, or taking a different route on your walk.
So if you want your life to feel longer, stop hitting the snooze button and start hitting the new experiences button.
That's a great way to put it.
All right, so novelty and new experiences help us stretch out time. But what about our emotions? Do they play a role too?
Absolutely. Our emotional state has a huge impact on how we perceive time. Have you ever noticed how when you're feeling anxious or bored, time seems to drag on forever?
Yeah, big time. Like waiting for an important phone call or sitting in a boring meeting. It feels like the clock is moving in slow motion.
Exactly. When we're in those negative emotional states, our attention is often hyper-focused on the unpleasantness of the moment, and our minds might be racing or feeling stuck. This makes time feel like it's crawling by.
But on the other hand, when we're happy and engaged, time seems to fly by.
Precisely. When we're absorbed in something enjoyable, our attention is fully focused on the activity itself, and we're not constantly checking the clock. This creates a sense of flow, and time seems to melt away.
So it's like those moments of joy and connection actually warp our perception of time in a positive way.
Yeah, exactly. And this is where mindfulness comes in. When we're truly present in the moment, paying attention to our thoughts, feelings, and sensations, time becomes more balanced and even.
Mindfulness. You know, I've heard that word thrown around a lot lately, but I'm not really sure what it means.
It's basically the practice of bringing your attention to the present moment without judgment. It's about noticing your thoughts, feelings, and bodily sensations without getting swept away by them.
Okay, so like hitting the pause button on all the mental chatter and just focusing on what's happening right here, right now.
Exactly. And you don't have to be a meditation guru to practice mindfulness. It can be as simple as taking a few deep breaths, paying attention to the taste of your food, or noticing the sounds around you.
So mindfulness is all about slowing down and savoring the present moment.
Precisely. And when we do that, time actually expands because we're fully experiencing each moment instead of letting it slip by unnoticed.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And you mentioned something about a flow state earlier. What's that all about?
Yes. The flow state is that magical feeling when you're completely absorbed in a challenging but enjoyable activity. You know you're in the zone, time disappears, and you're just totally focused on what you're doing.
Oh, yeah, I totally know that feeling. Like when I'm working on a creative project or reading a really good book, hours can just vanish.
Exactly. And while time might seem to fly by when you're in the flow state, those experiences often feel incredibly rich and long-lasting in our memories.
Interesting. So even though time feels compressed in the moment, those flow state experiences actually contribute to a feeling of a longer life overall.
Precisely. It's all about the quality of our experiences, not just the quantity of time. And the flow state is a prime example of how we can create those intensely rich and rewarding moments that make life feel fuller and more expansive.
So how do we tap into that flow state more often?
It's about finding activities that you genuinely enjoy and that challenge you just enough to keep you engaged, but not so much that you get overwhelmed. And it's about creating an environment that minimizes distractions so you can really focus on the task at hand.
So put away your phone, close those extra tabs, and really get into the zone.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to experiment to find what works for you. For some people, it might be playing music. For others, it might be writing or painting.
The key is to find what lights you up and gets you into that flow state.
Absolutely.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about adrenaline, mindfulness, flow state. But what about all the stuff we do on autopilot, like scrolling through social media or doing chores mindlessly?
Right. Those activities can definitely make time disappear, but not in a good way. When we're engaged in repetitive tasks that don't require much mental effort, our brains kind of zone out.
And because we're not actively processing new information, those chunks of time feel kind of empty and forgettable.
Exactly. So the key is to be more mindful, even during those mundane, everyday activities. Try to introduce small variations into your routines. Pay attention to the sensations of what you're doing. Engage your senses.
So instead of just going through the motions, really be present in each moment.
Precisely. It's about bringing awareness to those everyday experiences that we often take for granted. And it's about being intentional with our time and choosing to spend it on activities that enrich our lives.
Okay, so let's recap. If you want to make your life feel longer, get out of your comfort zone, try new things, practice mindfulness, and find those activities that get you into the flow state.
And be mindful of how you spend your time, even during those everyday tasks.
Right. Choose to spend your time on things that matter to you.
Exactly.
All right, so now for the million-dollar question. Does making our lives feel longer actually mean we're living longer?
That's a great question, and it gets to the heart of what we're talking about. While we can definitely influence how long our lives feel, we can't actually add more years to our lifespan just by changing our perception of time.
So sadly, we haven't discovered the fountain of youth just yet.
Not quite. But here's the thing. While we can't change our biological clock, we can dramatically change the quality of our experience. When our lives are filled with meaningful moments and rich experiences, those years feel much fuller and more satisfying.
It's like we're stretching out the fabric of time by weaving in more threads of joy, connection, and purpose.
I love that analogy. And it really highlights the point that the length of our lives isn't just about the number of years we accumulate, but about the depth and richness of those years.
Absolutely. So while we may not be able to live forever, we can definitely make our lives feel like they're lasting a lifetime.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe by focusing on living more fully in the present moment, we'll actually discover the secret to a longer, healthier life after all.
Intriguing. Maybe there's more to this time expansion thing than meets the eye.
Possibly, and that's the beauty of it. There's still so much we don't know about how our brains perceive time and how we can influence that perception.
So for all you time travelers out there, the quest to expand your experience of time is just beginning.
Absolutely, and the journey is just as important as the destination.
Well said. But for now, it's time for us to wrap up this incredible deep dive.
Thanks for joining us.
And before we go, we wanted to give a shout out to our buddy, Micky.
Oh yeah, Micky.
He's got this awesome YouTube channel called Mickytolife, where he shares his travel adventures, whiskey reviews, original music, all sorts of cool stuff.
Definitely worth checking out.
It's a great way to expand your horizons and maybe even your perception of time.
Exactly. You never know what might spark your curiosity and make you feel like you're living life to the fullest.
So go check out Mickytolife on YouTube and tell him we sent you.
He'll be thrilled.
All right, everyone. That's all the time we have for this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep stretching out that precious time you have.
And remember, every moment is a gift, so make it count.
Wise words. See you next time.